Division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Arkansas coaching search is underway, I guess. Bobby Petrino fighting for the position. Basketball with an exhibition, prime time at the Palace, dunk contest, three-point contest. We're going to talk about all of that today. Kevin Bohnannon is going to join us, Connor Goodson as well. Plus, we'll take your questions. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. I'd like to tell you about our friends over at Crain Automotive. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hog Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
That's winning, and that is the Crain Team. Welcome to October, everybody, and happy birthday. My dad's birthday was yesterday, October 1st, 80 years old today, or yesterday, but quite an accomplishment for my old man. I always say there's not a better month than October. It's also my mom's birthday. My birthday is on October 19th. You can pretty much be comfortable in short sleeves or long sleeves, pants or shorts most days. Still daylight savings times all through October, so it doesn't get dark early yet. Leaves start changing color. If you have a fescue lawn like I do, you know it's popping right now. You take some pride in your lawn. Thick of it with college football and conference play, NFL football in peak form, preseason college basketball, MLB playoffs, chili, hearty soups, squashes, root vegetables, apples. It smells like spice, brown sugar, and pie. State fairs, festival, Oktoberfest, Mars and beers. Great camping and hiking season, deer hunting season. And let's wrap the whole thing up with Halloween. What month is better than October? It could depend on if you're allergic to pollen or mold spores, I guess, for some of you out there. I always thought October was the best month. Arkansas 2026 football commitments, as you would expect, have dropped significantly. They reached a high of 27. They've had 13 total players decommit. They're at 17 right now. So that number, has gone up and down. Not all of these guys have decommitted since the coaching change, but a good number of them have. Just to put this in perspective of what it looks like, in the past, like when Brett Bielema came to Arkansas, every single player that was committed to Arkansas from outside the state decommitted, and they kept all of the in-state guys that they could. And I think part of that is also, especially at that time, you didn't want to damage a relationship with in-state. I've always said, like, when you offer an in-state kid, you need to make sure that that offer is legitimate, because the worst thing you could do is pull that scholarship back. It doesn't matter as much for out-of-state. And I used to always say that when out-of-state schools would come in and offer a bunch of kids in Arkansas, and everybody be freaking out, why isn't Arkansas offered? Because for the out-of-state team, it doesn't matter as much to them if they pull the Arkansas offer, because it's not as bad a look for them because they're not relying on the state as much. But for Arkansas, I always felt like it mattered. Of course, times have changed. Recruiting, nothing is the same as it used to be. But, 13 total decommitments right now for Arkansas. As I mentioned last week, Danny West wrote probably 30 commitment stories for and again, it peaked at 27 total commitments at one time. And now has written 13 decommitment stories, and that's going to continue. And then after that, he's going to write a bunch more commitment stories. So Danny's, it's an interesting time for him. I always say, obviously the fans are the backbone. Man, I feel like some fans out there just want bad news, though. Like there was this deal that came out. This was Parker Graham and Carlton Saff had retweeted our friends over at Bet Saracen, but it said Oregon State's NIL deal with Blueprint Sports, which is what Arkansas uses. That was their deal. Obviously, it feels like things, to be honest, it feels like things are phasing out there. They have one employee left at Arkansas Edge. So we'll see where that goes. But I don't think anybody's been impressed with that relationship at this point. But Blueprint, Oregon State's deal with Blueprint Sports was a $284,000, allegedly, I guess, a $284,000 annual fee, a $750,000 fundraising floor that grows 3% annually, 75% of NIL revenue up to $1.15 million, and 50% of everything beyond, plus 1.25% admin fee on all deals. In plain English, if Ohio State athletes generate $3 million, Oregon State, it just says OSU. If Oregon State athletes generate $3 million, Blueprint pockets $1.54 million, more than half the pot. So I reached out to somebody I know, and again, I don't think it's any secret that the relationship hasn't been great. It hasn't been like this great experience with Blueprint and Arkansas Edge and Arkansas and all that stuff. But Arkansas's deal is not that. That is not. I'm not saying Arkansas's got a good deal. I just know that it's not. In fact, it was not at all structured like that. Told by a very reliable source. But some of the people who responded, it's almost like you want the news to be bad. You want Arkansas. Like, I don't know what it is, but some people just like thrive on everything's just, it's awful. We suck. Well, one guy was just like, Trey, why would anybody listen to you? You were the one that you said that revenue sharing was going to level the playing field. Find where I've said that. I said, that's the hope that it does. They want it to level the playing field. Doesn't mean it's going to, which is quite a different statement. Anyway, I told him to find that and send it to me when he finds it. He said I said it multiple times. So far he hasn't shown me anything, but we're waiting anxiously for that piece of information. But I don't think it's any secret that the deal with Blueprint Sports has not been very good for Arkansas. And probably Arkansas learned a bit of a lesson there. Blueprint is down to one employee, Arkansas Edge is down to one employee. One of those employees went to work under Remy Cofield also. So that's important to know. One person that was working at Arkansas Edge now works there, who is the Arkansas GM, for those of you who don't know. So that's where things stand on that. Prime time at the Palace. That's at 8 o'clock on Friday. We're going to talk to Connor Goodson here in just a little bit. And again, get your questions in on the Razor's Edge and in the comment section, and we'll answer what we can on that. But obviously the big news is Arkansas's coaching search and whether or not the Razorbacks can make a hire. And I've mentioned this before, but I want to make it clear for everybody who wants to sign up at HawgSports. Now is the time to do it. We've made it as easy as possible for anybody to follow along with the coaching search. Some of the stuff we're hearing, we post a rumor mill stuff, but we also shoot down a lot of rumors and post a lot of accurate information about what's going on, how this process actually works and stuff. There's been so much misinformation, as you would expect, out on social media, which is one of the good functions that we have at HawgSports is we identify stuff that is rumors. And yeah, it's entertaining to talk rumors and stuff, but we also try to make sure people really understand what's going on over there. And you can get 2 months right now for $1 at HawgSports. No promo code or anything. That's a fantastic deal. $1 for 2 months of access, and find out what you're missing. If you've ever thought like, I think I can get this or that, whatever, I think you'd be really surprised. We have a lot of people that signed up for past coaching searches when we've offered this deal, and 6 years later, they're still with us talking about how much they enjoy it. So we'll also do 75% off if you want to do that deal for the annual subscription. That breaks down to $30. So if you're interested. So just looking at what's coming up for Arkansas basketball real quick. Primetime at the Palace on October 3rd. That's in Bud Walton Arena. The Razorback tip-off scrimmage in Hot Springs at Bank of Ozark Arena. That is at 3 o'clock on October 12th. October 24th is the Cincinnati exhibition in Bud Walton Arena. And then Monday, October 27th at the FedEx Forum in Memphis, you've got Arkansas and Memphis in the St. Jude Tip-Off Classic. And that's everything for October. The season opener is against Southern on Monday, November 3rd in Bud Walton Arena, 6 o'clock. The full schedule's been released and everything, of course. And again, we'll talk to Connor Goodson. As far as Arkansas coaching search, some of the main names that you hear right now being discussed, obviously we spoke about John Sumrall a little bit on Monday's show, the Tulane head coach who was at Troy, really strong record, has that attitude that you want to see in a coach, a guy that is very matter of fact, that doesn't mind speaking his mind, and people around him love him for pushing them, basically. And that's always something I felt was a downfall of Sam Pittman. He felt like he tried to keep too many people happy all the time. And you just can't do that. And I know the landscape is difficult to navigate in college football when it's so easy to enter the transfer portal. But we would see things, I think, to a detriment of Arkansas. Like in the spring, we saw players who are barely playing at all right now, who are involved in position battles and even starting, like Keyshawn Blackstock, for example. We don't even see him. We barely even seen him this year, but he was good enough to be competing for a job. Selman Bridges was running with the first team all spring, and we had barely seen him. And, they had the other guys for the most part, except for Julian Neal on campus. So there are a lot of examples like that, I think, where, Pittman tried to keep people happy, and it just didn't work out. And Bobby Petrino is going to operate very differently. Bobby Petrino is also a candidate for this job, and obviously had a lot of success. I always say Bobby Petrino was a lot like Marilyn Monroe, because Marilyn Monroe, we lost her in her prime. We never saw anything else, like any downfall of of who she was. And with Petrino, it was like 10-3, 11-2, gone. And for every other coach that's ever come through here, there's been something like a downfall. Like in the modern era, there's been a downfall. They end up, having a bad season and getting fired, or they've been here too long, and all that kind of stuff. With Petrino, it stopped. So it was a lot different. And now he's back. And I think there are a lot of people in his corner, a lot of people that want to see this thing come full circle. It is crazy when you think about this whole story. Like, this could be a 30 for 30 one day if Petrino gets it done. And what does that mean, getting it done? It means, probably beating a team like Texas or LSU or Tennessee on the road, and taking care of business at home, getting to a bowl game, seeing a lot of fight and energy. That's basically what it's going to take for Petrino to get this job back. But man, what a crazy story. And I remember when he was first announced as offensive coordinator, or when I first heard, because I was told, well, a good bit before, like, you need to look out for Bobby Petrino here. He's in Arkansas, yada, yada, yada. Look out for him. And I was just like, I'm going to let somebody else break this story because it sounds insane. And lo and behold, he's hired as offensive coordinator. Never thought I would see Bobby Petrino back at Arkansas coaching in any capacity. And now, with the ouster of Sam Pittman, and guys, I really think that had things gone differently for Travis Williams and the defense hadn't been a disaster, I think probably at one point the plan would have been to move Travis Williams into that role. But since the defense was so bad, it only made sense to promote Bobby Petrino, which is the smart move because Petrino has that head coaching experience. He knows what he's doing. So that's going to be really, really interesting to follow. Bobby Petrino back at Arkansas. It adds a little bit of life back into what otherwise would have been, kind of a dull drum type of remainder of the season. It really would have been. Like, nobody would have expected much. Now we're just kind of like, let's see what Bobby will do. See if he can get this thing back on track. He's obviously understaffed, and we don't know exactly if he's added anybody just yet. But we know that he has a guy in mind. It was waiting for approval, basically. From what I can understand, they took Monday practice off and they started Tuesday. And they work in some Tennessee stuff here and there, but also focusing on what they do, getting better at what they do, tackling, reviewing the film, working on their run fits, understanding how all that stuff works together. He said stuff like simple, like, we got to make sure we get in a good stance. Wow. I mean, they're not in a good stance. Like, I mean, there are technical things about football that, casual observers don't understand, but like they're not getting in a good stance. Like that's where they need to start. So a lot of talk like that, but very intriguing. Obviously, Rhett Lashley's name has been brought up quite a bit. There's discussion that certain powerful people in Arkansas really want to make a run at, and I know that for a fact. I know there is one family up here that would love to make a run at Rhett Lashley. And John Sumrall, Rhett Lashley, those have been two very popular ones. Dan Mullen has been a very popular name. Lashley actually made comments about the Arkansas job and people showing interest in him. I just changed a smoke alarm outside of my office, and now I just heard this one chirp for the first time. Hope that doesn't continue much or that y'all can't hear it. Anyway, Dan Mullen's been a name that's been brought up. I don't think he's made any kind of comment on the job, but he's 4-0 starting off at UNLV. He's got a really impressive history. He had one bad season at Florida, and they fired him for it, which is pretty Florida, I guess. Florida and Auburn they will fire you. But he's been another name that's been really, and I'm just talking about people who have been discussed a lot this week. Oh, my God. I may have to change the smoke alarm. It just started. I might bring Connor on just to talk while I do that real quick because I do have the ladder right outside of my office. So anyway, a few names that have been brought up lately. All right. Ozarks Go. We're going to bring Connor Goodson in on the Ozarks Go hotline, and I'm probably going to go change this alarm real quick. It's right there. Should be able to do it pretty quick. For those of you who don't use Ozarks Go or don't know about it, you got to check and see if it's available in your area, but you can reach out to them at 479-684-4900 or go to ozarksgo.net/hawg. That's HAWG. Several different tiers of internet, and it just works. Check out our friends at Ozarks Go. Again, ozarksgo.net/hawg. It's a local company and several different tiers of internet. Connor, how's it going? Where are you? There you are. How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty good. Can't complain too much.
Do you think you can? Do you think you can handle this while I get this chirping smoke detector taken care of? Do you think you can?
I can certainly try. You know how sometimes I get long-winded. Maybe I can get a little long-winded here.
All right. Tell us what to expect. What's coming up? What your thoughts are personnel-wise on the roster, and time me. Everybody, time me right now.
All right. So, we talked to John Calipari yesterday for about 15, 20 minutes in a media scrum type of setting. Talked about a lot of different things, obviously kind of gave a rundown of what to expect with these exhibitions coming up. You got the obviously red, white primetime in the Palace, which he said that they're going to do a slam dunk contest, 3-point shooting contest, and then a little bit of a scrimmage. So we're going to get to see these guys in action, kind of competing a little bit. Also gave a little health update on some guys. One thing to note that is pretty obvious compared to last year is this team is so much healthier, and it's allowed them to be further ahead than they were last year. Obviously, there's a lot going on last offseason, but you can tell John Calipari is just a little bit more comfortable with where they are, and that it's directly related to how healthy they are. They have avoided the injury bug with major guys. You've got – dang, that was pretty quick.
Let's see if it worked.
Hopefully it holds off.
Go ahead.
But yeah, so I was just talking about the health this year compared to last offseason. They couldn't even scrimmage in practices. And so when they went to the tip-off tour in Hot Springs and Pine Bluff, they were just basically doing practice drills. And so you didn't really get a good feel for what this team can do. So primetime in the Palace this Friday, they're actually going to get to scrimmage a little bit, go 5-on-5, 4-on-4, whatever. And that's because that they're healthy. Like they have the bodies to do that. And I think that the overarching, if you step back and you look at this basketball program this year, the thing that sticks out to me the most is just everyone's more comfortable. Calipari was more laid back. It felt like last year you could tell he's a little bit guarded. His mind sometimes you could tell it was elsewhere. And that comes with a big move like he made. But he just looks more comfortable, and I think that that's really rubbing off on the team. And so, I think that with that, the expectations naturally rise a little bit. And so people talking Sweet 16 again, Elite 8, possibly Final Four potential. It's there, and I think that if they are as comfortable as Calipari feels, and he feels really good about this team, then I think that they can reach that potential.
It's important that they have been able to practice. He talked about, just being able to do 4-on-4 and stuff, plus having more continuity. Obviously, everything coming in last year was so new and stuff. I really like what he said about Billy Richmond, about how he's a unicorn. And when everybody mentions him, like everybody knows when Billy does something good, everybody's like, Billy, everybody knows at their watch party. So somebody's going, Billy.
Well, and is that not crazy? But it's kind of what, you find this other places too, but like Arkansas fans, they love guys who just get after it and just do the dirty work.
He's the quintessential Arkansas guard.
Oh yeah. You go back through Arkansas's basketball history. Those are the guys that are fan favorites. And Billy Richmond, I think when he leaves here, whenever that may be, regardless of if his jump shot comes around or if his handle gets tighter, just the fact that he can come into the game and be just a nuisance to the other team's top player, that is endearing enough to Arkansas fans, because that is Arkansas brand basketball. That's what everyone expects to see is all those guys going as hard as Billy Richmond does, and he kind of is the quintessential, kind of makes up. He's kind of that metaphor for what Arkansas fans expect their basketball team to be, and so that was pretty cool. Calipari had a lot of good one-liners in there in his press conference yesterday, I thought.
Yeah, I have an AI deal that we've been putting out, clips and stuff of all the different, from press conference stuff, all the best takes and stuff. And so I was going through seeing which ones we wanted to add to our social media accounts. And yeah, he has a lot of, it's Cal. He's going to have a lot of good sayings and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that one thing that stood out to me is he talked a little bit about the expectations in year 2 and what he's able to take. And I think that the schedule that they put together, there's a reason why Arkansas is going to play all of these different teams, these marquee teams. They're playing every team that was in the Elite Eight last season. A coach doesn't do that if he doesn't feel really, really good. And it's one thing when you have these matchups planned years and years in advance and it just happens to align. But these matchups weren't on the books last year. Like they weren't on the books until really after Calipari got his core pieces back and then started to figure out where his roster was going to be. And that's when he started to see the schedules come together. And I think it's directly correlated to where he feels this team can be. And that's why you see them in so many big time non-conference games. And when he says he feels really good about this team, sometimes it's coach speak, you hear it all across the country, but when Calipari says it, and it's a stark contrast to last year, this time, I think that there's some weight to that when he says that this time around.
Connor, you've been following along with what's happened at Arkansas football, obviously. What are your thoughts on Bobby Petrino taking over this team and the impending coaching search?
Yeah, well, we've touched on it a little bit on Monday's show as well. It's surreal, one, seeing him again as head coach. Hearing him in the teleconference was also just it was another. It was almost like when Calipari started doing the media rounds when he was head coach. You still had that what is this real? Like, there's no way that this is real. And it's kind of like you get that a little bit when you see Bobby Petrino doing the teleconferences and doing the media. And I'm sure when he runs out onto the field for the first time as head coach and on the sidelines, it's going to be surreal. But so that part is surreal. But then there's also another part to it to where it's like you balance do you really care what happens in these? There's a portion of fans, you see it on our message boards and stuff. There's a portion that don't care what happens these 9 weeks. They don't want to do a retread. They want to start fresh. And then, so there's that back and forth, that conversation. But personally for me, I think that if something miraculous happens in these next 9 weeks, you can't ignore it. Do we expect that to happen?
This isn't like Roy Whitkey's coming back to be the offensive coordinator or something. This is a guy that was highly successful. Like the idea of the word retread being used with Bobby Petrino is outrageous. But I made the point about
I've seen it a couple of times, so that's why I used it.
Right.
But, yeah,
I know, but surely it's not by people who are 30 and older who remember. But with Petrino, I made the point about how his last time here was just it was great, and then he dropped off. Louisville fans, I think, had that same type of kind of romance with Bobby Petrino because he left for the Atlanta Falcons job. And when he returned there, they were very successful and they tanked one year. They had a 2-8 season. He lost the team, obviously. This was after Lamar Jackson obviously was there, but they tanked and they fired him. And, the next thing you know, he resurfaces after some time at Missouri State, which is beneath. I mean, I'm glad. I'm sure he enjoyed coaching on the Division II level or whatever, but that job was beneath him. And then next thing you know, he's hired at UNLV for a spot for a brief time, and then takes the Texas A&M job. And then a year later, he's at Arkansas. And I think we could all kind of envision that, but it coming to where he would be, an interim coach, I guess. But I think that, again, the thought was that it would be Travis Williams for a long time, if it came to that, which didn't make as much sense, I don't think, as a guy with head coaching experience.
Yeah, I think that in these times, and I think that there was a reason that, like, when Bobby got fired the first time, that you saw John L. Smith get the nod, is because he had that head coaching experience. And I think that's natural in these situations. You look to people who have been in the chair, so to speak. So it is wild that this time last year, all the talk was we gotta wrap up T. Will. If something were to happen, it's T. Will's team. He's going to take over versus Bobby. And now the conversation is completely different. And then obviously T. Will gets let go. But it is weird how that just changes year to year based on a lot of different factors. But I feel like you get a bad rap. The YouTube comments and Facebook comments say that they don't read you. Seen a lot of Gruden talk. I don't know if there was a rumor that came up today again. A lot of Gruden talk in the YouTube, Facebook comments. That's a name that is intriguing for a number of reasons. And I haven't really heard you or Danny talk about that.
Because he talks like this, Connor. He talks like this all the time, and he's real pointed. Yeah, he's real pointed about what he says about the Arkansas Razorbacks.
That's spot on. That is spot on, dude. You could give that one dude a run. He does.
I'm not bad at impressions. I've learned that about myself.
Your Houston Nutt was good too. Immediately when you did it on Drive Time, Rick picked it up just like that. He's like, Houston Nutt.
Yep. Yeah. With Gruden though, like, I think people saw his. Him opening that swag bag, that box with all the Arkansas stuff, and how he knew everything. And I'm like, man, that's crazy how he knows all that stuff. And I saw one the other day where he opens up Missouri stuff, and it's the same thing. He knows everything about Missouri. So I'm sure it's very, rehearsed, and maybe there's cue cards or something behind the camera or something. But at first I was like, holy crap, he knew everything about Arkansas, except for he got, I think, Sam Walton's name wrong. And, I think he said he went to Arkansas, but Sam Walton, I don't know if everybody knows, he went to Missouri, actually. Anyway, yeah, John Gruden talks like this a lot. Quarterbacks, Fired Coaches Association. What is it? Fired Coaches Association of America, FAAA. Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, Gruden's very likable in that sense, obviously. He is, 60-something years old? A lot of these guys that people are talking about are in their 60s, and Frank Broyles used to say, and Rick Schaefer told me this, that Frank Broyles used to say he wanted to coach his 10 best years. And for a coach, that generally starts, they always say for a quarterback, it starts at like 27. Mm-hmm. That's when you still have your physical ability, and you've also have enough experience that it all merges together. So it's supposed to be like 27 years old is the prime year for a quarterback. For a coach, when maybe not your prime year, maybe that starts when you're like 50 or something, I don't know. Depends on the coach. But when you're about 42, I've always felt like is a number that's when a guy who's a really hot up and comer, really takes his first big job on a major college program or something. I've always felt like that for some reason, 42. And I'll say this, when I was 42, I was like, holy crap, I'm an adult. I feel like an adult now.
And I think there's a lot
to be said. That's the number, 42 is when you become an adult.
There's a lot to be said about that. And I thought Danny made a great point in the comments of his look at John Summerall. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are kind of not thrilled with the idea of Summerall because Joe Craddock would come back as offensive coordinator. And of course they have, some people have PTSD, but they forget that Joe Craddock's first big offensive coordinating job was the Arkansas job.
Yeah. He was the youngest coordinator.
Under an offensive minded head coach. How much control did he really have? But since then he's been able to kind of reinvent himself, and he's hitched himself to a really good candidate who's kind of given him the reins, and they've really put up good numbers. So it's like, can you really wait what someone did in their first time out where they're still learning? They've got a lot of growing to do. And it was just not a really good situation for anyone to thrive in, I don't think. But a lot of people still hold that against him, but he's kind of reaching that age. I don't know exactly what Joe Craddock's age is, but he's got a lot
40.
of years under him.
He's a man.
Yeah. So he's around that where they start to come into their own. They've been around the block. They understand it. They're more comfortable. And so I think that, there's a lot to be said for that for sure. Even with like coordinators and coaches in general, really.
Joe Craddock, I believe his birthday is like September 7th or something, but he just turned 40. But when he was hired at Arkansas, he was the youngest coordinator in the SEC. He'd only been calling plays for 1 year at SMU before he got hired at Arkansas, and he was in over his head and had to go reinvent himself, got the UAB tight ends job, parlayed that into working under John Sumrall at Troy, where he had success. And you look at the numbers last year at Tulane, I mean, their offensive numbers are solid, but like you break it down, like when you talk about pass efficiency, I believe they were number one. They're like number one and number two in like pretty much every major category on offense, except for maybe, I think they might have been in yards too. I think it was just like 405. Anyway, Connor, we got to move on. We got Kevin Bohnannon waiting in the wings, but appreciate your insight. And we'll see you on Friday at the Palace.
Sounds good. Thanks, Trey.
All right, everybody. Connor Goodson. You can follow him at Connor Goodson on X. Does a great job for us covering basketball and football. I want to tell you about our friends over at Walker Brothers real quick. Walker Brothers, as you can see below, located at 3503 South 55th Street, Suite. What is that suite? I think I might have the number wrong. 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101. I had it right, in Rogers. That's their new location. If you're looking for fine menswear, there's nothing like Walker Brothers in the state. You can also visit them in their Fayetteville store at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6. All kinds of fantastic brands. They've got the Crazy Hog logo on Peter Millar, which is great golf attire. I wear a lot of that. And you can get their Curly Tail logo on Peter Millar or Johnny O, Horn Legend, Divot Sportswear, and other clothing as well. And it's not just sportswear or golf gear. Obviously, they've got Faraday, which is a really nice dress shirt it's like a casual dress shirt, most of their stuff, but you can get tailored for a suit. You can get cologne, you got shoes, just about anything that you can think of for menswear. They have it at Walker Brothers. It is worth a look, especially, the Fayetteville store is great, but man, what they've got, I need to go film what they've got going on in Rogers. There's nothing like it in Arkansas. Walker Brothers, a name to be trusted for menswear. What's up, Kevin Bohnannon?
Hey, it's been a busy week for a bye week all the way around.
It has. I thought I was going to have a little bit of downtime in the season. Actually, as things unfolded, it's like, man, this is probably the time to that they would make a coaching change. And we talked about the show Monday, but it really makes sense. Connor mentioned John L. Smith a minute ago, and I was just thinking, man, that was the last interim coach at Arkansas. There were times like, me and Danny, obviously, we used to go. When we were a two-man team, we'd go to all the press conference stuff. But John L. would say stuff sometimes, and people remember like smile and that kind of stuff. But man, he would say stuff that just made you.
Was he the one that said "get your piss hot"?
He said "get your piss hot." Yeah. And that was. He said he didn't say it, but Tank Wright says that's what he used to say.
Yeah.
But he said one time he said something about. I think when he was special teams coach, and he came in for a press conference, and he said, before they care what you know, they got to know that you care, and sometimes that means a kick in the tail, but they have to feel that love coming through their tail. And I was just like, I was stunned, and I turned around to look at everybody, and nobody's saying anything. There's Danny West, he's in the very back holding the camera, and he's just like, doing that silent laugh that he does.
Yeah.
Just dying laughing.
Gyrating. Yeah.
Man, I was dying. They have to feel. I was just like, John L., do you hear what you're saying? It was kind of like, when Jerry Jones said he needed to find a glory hole.
Yeah. Feel it in the tail. Yeah.
Dude, that's not the only one. There's another time where John L. goes, he was talking about, we're not always going to be out there to help them. So the older guys have to service the younger guys. And the younger guys have to service themselves. I was just like, oh my! I was standing up at that one, and there was a pillar it used to be in the visiting locker rooms where we do these press conferences. And there was a pillar, and I was, I had a camera and I was recording on a tripod, and he said that, and I just went behind the pillar and was just like tried to pull myself together. It's like reminds me of what a juvenile I actually am in my mind. But
42, you become an adult at 42, and what you were what? 34, 35 then?
Yeah. Old enough to be able to take that without dying laughing like some child. But, I mean, come on. Like, what am I supposed to do? Can't say that stuff and expect
Too
me to
easy.
keep a straight face. Nope, not a lot of people know that, and there's video of it out there somewhere. We tried to find it, but we can't find it. But we obviously shot video of John Elton saying that kind of stuff. So, Cabo, let's talk a little bit of baseball. Had some baseball last Friday.
Yeah, Fall Classic. Dave Van Horn does this every year. It's their inter squad scrimmage. They break it up, and last year they really kind of did a starters versus key reserves for the game, and it was 10-2. They had 5 home runs, but they split the teams fairly even this year as far as the pitching staff goes. You had Cole Gibbler starting to get Hunter Dietz, and the position players were split pretty good. Landon Schaefer was the only one that really didn't play. He had a little scooter incident, but he's okay. He got some stitches. He's going to be fine. But he was the only one that really didn't participate. So hopefully he will be able to play against UALR and Dallas Baptist coming up next week as they welcome those two teams in for a fall scrimmage. But, you had a 7-6 game. Some of the highlights, Christian Turner, outfielder. We talk about Carson Brumball, Landon Schaefer, and then a lot of freshman pitchers. But people forgot about Christian Turner, and he turned around a Cole Gibbler fastball, went opposite field to lead off the game. Gave his team a 1-run lead. Reese Robinette was 3 for 3 with 4 RBIs. Big Country didn't go play summer ball, and everybody was talking. He needs at bats. If he's going to be the starting first baseman, he needs at bats. He has shown so far that he has matured as a hitter. He wants to be that everyday first baseman. So Big Country, Reese Robinette's done a really good job. The standout so far in the fall has been Ryder Helfrich. Going into his money year, he's ranked anywhere from 50 to 80, which is, top half of the second round to back end of the third round as far as MLB draft goes for 2026. He had 2 doubles in the game, a couple RBIs, and just consistent every day. Coach Van Horn talking, kind of just talking about Helfrich, and he's a tough out. And you've heard about that before with guys. Last year it was Logan Maxwell, Charles Davalon. So if you can get somebody like Ryder Helfrich who hit over 300, hit double-digit home runs, if he can get better as the year goes along and has an even better junior year, it's going to make that team even better. So Kuhio Aloy got some time in right field. That's big because right outfield, you got to replace them for the 3rd year in a row. 3 years, 9 new players is what it's going to be going into 2026. Damian Ruiz, Micah Naiu have looked really good out there. Naiu had a couple of hits. Ruiz, not so much, but he's going to hit at that level. He was the Southland Conference hitter of the year last year, and it's good to see him in Razorback gear. The young guys are going to be good on the mound. They just got to develop some depth. Still Easy is going to be good on the back end. Ethan McIlvain had a 10-pitch perfect inning. So there's going to be a lot of depth. Hunter Dietz was up to 99. It'll be good to see them against different competition next week.
Kevin Bohnannon joining us. You can follow him at Cabo Baseball Guru on X. He does a lot of great football content for us, a lot of breakdowns and analysis, and, of course, baseball coverage like crazy. Cabo, what do you think about this move with Bobby Petrino? You got any kind of unique thought on his elevation to interim head coach?
I wrote in the article on Monday when we were after the press conference and we had gotten everything out that Bobby Petrino has been on the sidelines for the University of Arkansas before, but this is the first time he's done it as an interim head coach. As far back as I know, this is the first time he's been an interim head coach at any level anywhere. So that's a whole new arena that he's in. So for him to be able to get everything right in 9 weeks, and you and I haven't talked about this, but we've given the same answer in different interviews that what win total does he need to get to, and he's a serious contender for the job. And both of us had said get bowl eligible, then then he can have a real conversation.
Yeah, then we're talking about it.
Yeah, then you can have a real conversation about that.
So what does that look like? Arkansas football schedule. I mentioned that. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah, you got 4 home
You're not
games.
going to be favored in any of the games.
Yeah, you got 4 home games. You got Missouri, Auburn, Mississippi State, Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and then you got Texas, LSU, and Tennessee on the road.
So basically, win every home game.
Yeah, win every home game.
And then we're having a conversation about it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be short-staffed and to see the dip that they've had. What's crazy though, Kevin, is like the dip that they had and what they were once capable of. And I feel like this would be the same way with Ole Miss, because teams are built so shallow now, and maybe not the exact same, but you just saw what Arkansas was capable of driving down the field against Ole Miss. Sure, they're not perfect. Talon doesn't always make the right decision, but they were good enough to almost beat what now is the number 4 ranked team in the country.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen the way you wanted. The next week, you got a bit of a hangover playing at Memphis, and the same kind of thing happens, and then it's just a total let go of the rope after that, and you get your doors blown off against Notre Dame. Had that fumble not happened, which it did, you can't change it. It happened. Had that not happened, I think they play a lot better against Memphis, and I think they have a competitive game, at least against Notre Dame. And I think part of the offense's problem, Kevin, was against Notre Dame was just like, okay, we're not playing that bad. There was a drive where they had a long drive, and I think they had like 11 run plays for 69 yards on a 75 play drive.
Yeah.
And, then it just felt like it just went, well, okay, we got to score every drive here. We're going to push. I think there was a lot of issues like that. You got some company there, Kevin.
Yeah, she's home today, unfortunately. But, yeah, and that's the thing. I hated that the only thing that didn't get celebrated was Shaq McCroy's big man touchdown. The first time an offensive lineman has scored a touchdown at the University of Arkansas since Sean Andrews in 2003. Mm-hmm. But that shows you how behind the 8 ball they were on offense, that he was the only touchdown. Mike Washington, Taylor Green, did Notre Dame do anything difficult or anything that they haven't seen this year? No. But I think it was a collective effort of, okay, you feel defeated when you know that you have no chance and you have to be perfect out there. Yeah. That was the problem. So that wears on you. It wears on us every day. It's a human nature type of deal. It's the human psychology of everything. So if going into it and it's a total uphill fight, it's next to impossible, you have to dig deep and find that inner self to overcome those type of things. And they just weren't able to. And it was like, all right, let's get through with this one and what happens next.
Yeah. All right, Kevin. Anything else you want to add before we cut you loose?
Yeah, I like Dan Mullen. I'll say that right now. He's 53, quarterback whisperer. One bad year at Florida, they kicked him out the door. So
Alex Smith at Utah, Tim Tebow at Florida, and Dak Prescott at Mississippi State.
He took Mississippi State to number 1 in the nation, Trey.
Yeah,
that's the argument right there.
They were number 1 when Arkansas played them, right?
Yeah, they were.
That was the game where things went really downhill for Sam Pittman and Brett Bielema. There was a player who mentioned like he felt like Bielema was going to fire Pittman right there. He was so mad because I guess it was Pittman's job on the field goal block unit to, I believe it was Volsky took a step the wrong way and they got through and they blocked it, which Cole Hedlund had so many kicks blocked in his career at Arkansas. And then, of course, was perfect when he came to Fayetteville when he was playing for TCU. But that was the beginning of the end for that relationship with Pittman and Bielema. That was a tough loss. Brandon Allen was amazing in that game.
Yeah, Brandon Allen's 2015 year highly underrated in Razorback annals. So
Mississippi State finished ranked 11th nationally that year. They went 10-3, 6-2 in the SEC. So they reached that height, but they didn't obviously quite sustain it. But they went 9-4 the next year, and then 6-7, and then 8-4, and then he took the Florida job. At Florida, he went 10-3. They finished number 7 nationally in the AP. Then they went 11-2 and finished 6th nationally. They went 8-4. They lost the Cotton Bowl that year and finished 13th nationally. And he has a bad year. He goes 5-6, and they fire him. And he did come out with that Darth Vader deal the year before, that 8-4 season after, I think it was on Halloween or something, which was pretty lame. He's a little, he's a little kind of goofy, I guess, a little bit, but
yeah, but
his record is his record. You got to be crazy. We talked about that plenty.
Crazy,
there's got to be something wrong.
That.
You can see Dan Mullen is like this when he talks all the time.
Yeah,
that's not normal eyes.
Yeah, I mean, think of the guys Mike Leach and everybody. Got to have a little craziness.
Yeah. Well, even watching Summerall the other day, he's all wide-eyed and talking about, how they're going to do things here. Holy smokes! I'm going to let you get to that.
All right, thanks,
Hope
buddy.
you're okay, Tessa.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Later, K-Bo.
Thanks, buddy. See you, Trey.
All right. Everybody's got family issues, and it looks like his daughter has stayed home from school today. Okay. Let's go to the Bet Saracen wager wagon now. Right now, actually, where were we at? Let's do this first.
It's a fine barbecue, Joe.
My own secret recipe.
Where's Super Sid? I got him on the FaceTime.
Where you at, Sid?
Hey, I'm in Milwaukee at the Bucks game.
How are they playing?
They're pretty good. They just need to get healthy.
Speaking of playing, what's shaking in Bet Saracen?
Oh, great offers, Pat. Like for new players to Bet Saracen, they'll get $125 to use for new bets.
Gotta love Bet Saracen.
Gotta love Bet Saracen. All right, so Arkansas, right now we are 4-1 picking Razorbacks games. That's against the spread, and we are last week we went 3-2 overall, and we are 15-9-1 overall against the spread. And now on to week 6 picks. I think this could be a little bit of a reality check week. You got Alabama minus 10.5 against Vanderbilt. This is in Tuscaloosa. I think Ty Simpson's really coming on. I think it could be a little bit of a check for Vanderbilt. I'm going to take the Crimson Tide at minus 10.5, even though I really like, Diego Pavia and what they're doing. I just think Alabama's coming on. I think maybe we rushed to judgment a little bit on Alabama with that, that opening loss against Florida State. More reality check time. Mississippi State is plus 15 against Texas A&M. Texas A&M's number 4 ranked team in the country right now. I think they're 4. Or is Ole Miss 4? I can't remember. They're all ranked high. But Texas A&M, I like them at minus 15.5. A&M hasn't blasted anybody. They only beat Auburn 16-10, 1-point win over Notre Dame. And Mississippi State, I think, could have a little bit of a letdown after their overtime loss against Tennessee. I think Mississippi State's a good team. For some reason, I just kind of feel like Texas A&M is going to win this game handily, and it's in College Station. Texas minus 7 at Florida. I like the Longhorns on this. I know my guy Josh Pate, saw a video of him the other day. He really likes Florida. I just think that there's a chance that Florida lets go of the rope after that loss to Miami. I usually do like a home underdog, but I think I think after a 1-3 start, it might be enough on the psyche of those players that they drop this game. Not that Texas is anything special, and their schedule early on has been dramatically soft these last 3 weeks especially, but I think Texas, maybe had enough time to get everything in order. Steve Sarkisian's a really good coach. I'm not sure that Billy Napier is. Stepping outside of the SEC, Iowa State is plus 1.5 at Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati's the home team, but I'm not sure what I'm missing. Iowa State has a really good squad. Cincinnati hasn't really beat the crap out of anybody except for Northwestern State. They won 70-0. But they lost to Nebraska. They barely beat Kansas. And Iowa State's number 14 nationally. I think they've got a good squad under Campbell, again, who also is a candidate that people talk about for the Arkansas job. But I like Iowa State plus 1.5 at Cincinnati. And then, I don't know, I've been thinking about Drake Lindsey a lot lately just because of, Arkansas guy. And, I want to pick Minnesota in this. I just think that Ohio State, even at minus 24, I think the Buckeyes might roll in this one. Ohio State's coming off a 24-6 win at Washington. Minnesota is 3-1. Lindsey has played very well there, but they really haven't played anybody too significant. They lost at Cal 27-14. I'd like for Minnesota to prove me wrong here, but I'm taking the Buckeyes at -24. So that's our Bet Saracen wager wagon for this week. 5 games each week. Again, we are 15-9-1 overall and 4-1 picking Razorback games. Obviously, the Hogs are on a bye this week. Where do we go next? Wager wagon. You want to go to some questions now? Sure you do. Again, go to HawgSports.com. 2 months, $1. HawgSports.com. It's the best deal we offer. That and the 75% off deal for the annual. So you do need to use the promo code HawgSearch, HAWG search 75 altogether, not case sensitive. Okay. I'm stalling because I don't have the questions brought up. Just give me 1 second. Where are they? Did I not post them? Yeah, I did. Surely I did. Sorry, give me a second. I thought I had it pulled up. Well, maybe I didn't post it, guys. Oh, here it is. Somebody pinned it. One of the moderators pinned it. You're messing me up, mods. All right. Hogboy 1987 says, even if Bobby gets this team to a bowl, do you think he would be the best option for long-term success of the program? Well, that's a good question. There have been several coaches that have been older, obviously, that have had success. Nick Saban, Bill Snyder's another example. The average age of a college football coach on this level is 48.5 years old, and Bobby is 63, I think. So the question would become, like, how many years does Bobby Petrino have in him? If he gives you 3, 4 great years, I mean, that would be worth it. That's pretty much what everybody does anyway. But you see Bobby Petrino out there on the field and stuff. He doesn't, like, behave like somebody that's, 63 years. Not that people anywhere, like, I used to think 63 was old, obviously when you're a kid. But now I look at it, maybe it's because I'm 47. I was talking to Randy Rainwater the other day. Randy's 75, and I don't think of him as being 75. So, but Bobby is, I don't know if it's just knowledge about health and medicine or something, but for whatever reason, it seems like 63 doesn't seem that old to me anymore. And that's probably has something to do with me not being in my 20s or something anymore. But long-term success, if he can get the program back on solid footing, show that he can win, then absolutely. If he can set things up for the next guy. I mean, if the guy wins, then he wins. Bottom line, right? How much faith do you have? This is from Chad Razorback. How much faith do you have that Arkansas won't screw up this coaching hire? Well, there's a lot of big talk so far from Yurachek about, what they have in NIL, the package that they're going to be able to present, all this stuff. But I don't have a doubt that they could, like, pay the right salary for the right guy. I think people would get behind that. But the question is everything else set up for success for the coach to lure him here? I have my doubts. I think everybody has doubts. So, I mean, the last couple of hires haven't worked out. I mean, Chad Morris was not a very inspirational hire. I mean, he had one winning season, and they were, 7-5 when he was hired at Arkansas. I mean, and then Sam Pittman basically got the job because nobody really wanted it. Like, these are, again, Chad Morris wasn't necessarily Hunter Yurachek's hire, but he was on board with the hire and even mentioned that he wanted to hire him at Houston at one point when he was AD there. But that's been his hire so far in football and, kind of. And then Sam Pittman, and basically nobody wanted the job. So, yeah, I'm a little skeptical that this will get done right. I don't think Arkansas fans should settle for anything, but that also means showing support. We can bitch and moan about, the guy that they, announced. Like, I can remember Tennessee fans and Texas A&M fans, the last hires, just like rioting over the choices for the next head coach, and shooting it down, like basically kiboshing the AD's attempt to hire a certain guy. But we can complain, but like if the support isn't there, then I don't know. You know what I mean? Like complain, yeah, but you also have to show support. That's just college football nowadays. I hate that because we talk about so much about the players, and yeah, you need to take care of the players. You need to take care of the coaches. You need to take care of the administration, the integrity of the game, all that kind of stuff. But the fans, I do feel like the fans, the only people, fans and boosters that are asked to spend money on this whole deal, sometimes get left out in the cold. And that's the truth. Jerry Seinfeld used to have a saying about medicine. And like whenever you're watching those commercials, like for this is what Pepto-Bismol or whatever will do, and it has the outline of that body going like this, and it's just like stuff going into their gut, and like their arms are spread, because this is how the medical community sees us. And sometimes I feel like maybe that's how these athletic departments see the fans, just like there to take money or there to take whatever they're giving them, just like. You guys know the drawing I'm talking about. How much faith? Never Yield Hog says, as an Arkansan who works in Memphis, I had those workplace conversations that made the losses to Ole Miss and Memphis incredibly tough. Since Arkansas doesn't have an in-state rival, how can they drum up the fire and enthusiasm that they need? Again, I mentioned Mark Sutherland's conversation that I had a while back around the start of the football season. And he had mentioned that, living in Kansas City, how you just see it from everybody. There's so many different teams that people support, and you go into work or you go into the gas station, you got to hear it from whoever. And I think that probably is a reason that Auburn strives so hard and fires and is unaccepting of anything but, the best, because they have to live up to Alabama, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, that same deal. And for Eastern Arkansans, that's obviously a reality. But for people over closer to the university, we've got move-ins and stuff from there's a lot of Procter & Gamble people from Cincinnati and stuff, Ohio State fans and stuff like that. And there's a few move-ins here and there, but there's not like a rival that you see all the time, every single season, and, football, basketball, and all that stuff, living next door to you and stuff like there is from those other places. And that absolutely could be part of the reason, and maybe why the university knows that, you'll just keep coming back because they're the show in town. I think there's some truth in that. And then I never thought about it like that. MS Fog 71 says, Trey, tons of pipe dream coaches out there. Here's another Urban Meyer done coaching, even a remote possibility he'd entertain a phone call from Arkansas. I'll hang up and listen. I don't know about that. I think he's probably done. There's a lot of interesting backgrounds on some of these, names that are brought up. John Gruden, obviously, he didn't have a great farewell in his, NFL deal with the email scandal deal. Urban Meyer, obviously, same deal, but we're also talking about a league that, didn't blink an eye about hiring Chris Beard, even though that's those charges were dropped, didn't blink an eye about hiring Hugh Freeze or Bobby Petrino. It's all about the W. And if they felt like Urban Meyer could be the guy that could get W's for him, then maybe. I don't know. I obviously, I don't think that John Gruden, Urban Meyer, or even I've seen people talk like Nick Saban. Jimbo Fisher is a name that's come up. Even I can't see that happening either. But Jimbo Fisher, what would you have to pay Jimbo Fisher? Probably not much, because he's guaranteed $77 million over the next 10. He's already getting 7.1 or something a year. Will Hunter Yurachek and the Board of Trustees listen to the actual fan base and pursue that coach? On some level, in some capacity, boosters also represent the fan base, in a lot of ways. These guys are obviously big fans, or they wouldn't be donating, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to the University of Arkansas. Gumpster117 says, will we see a new NIL collective for the U of A before the end of the football season? Also, if you can say what's going on with Blueprint Sports. So Blueprint, there was a deal I mentioned earlier in the show. I'm not going to go over it again, but where Oregon State was obviously, fans are very disappointed in the deal they have with Blueprint. I reached out to somebody who would know, and, that's not the deal that Arkansas has. I don't know if Arkansas has a way better deal, but I know it's not as bad as what Oregon State is. So maybe Arkansas isn't doing as bad as Oregon State, but also not doing great. I mean, let's be honest here. Blueprint Sports, the guy running things at Arkansas, he's the only employee now. I think the writing is on the wall there that this thing is being phased out. I think it's on the wall. So will they have a new NIL collective? I think so. I think we're looking at another restructuring, a third. You went from one Arkansas to Arkansas Edge, and I think we're going to see them go to another one in this deal wrap up in some capacity. I don't know that 100%. Maybe they try to absorb it and rebrand it or something like that. I don't know exactly, but they have one employee now. So, yeah. And I think Blueprint had like 25 teams and now has like 5 or something. But I don't want to say something that's not, 100% true. So I'll just say what I know is true, and that's Arkansas didn't have the same deal as the reported deal, at least with Oregon State. I don't even know if that's an official information from Oregon State. DevHart1121, if that's true, that just seems absolutely insane. They're getting half. I understand they got to charge a fee for their services and make money, but like, that just seems insane. It seems insane that anybody would agree to that. I was looking at it, it's like, surely this isn't real. DevHart1121 says, can you let us know where to send NIL payments aside from Edge since no one trusts it? Was 4th and 25. Yeah, Keith Grayson, I guess let that be absorbed. I can't remember exactly what Keith did with that, but 4th and 25 doesn't exist anymore. I think Pinto was on that board also. I don't know where to send NIL payments right now. I guess to Edge, but I wouldn't be surprised if people were, hesitant to do that at this point. Hogtalica says, can you talk a little bit more about the pros and cons of an up-and-comer like Sumrall, who's a proven G5 winner but unproven in the SEC, and proven SEC winners like Petrino and Mullen, who are unproven in navigating I think it's kind of like, they say winning the title is one thing, like in boxing, but defending it is another, because everybody's kind of gunning for you, and you have that. It's Rocky III, right? The eye of the tiger, and you got Clubber Lane coming at you, who's got that eye of the tiger, who's got that fire about him. And I think to have a coach who's younger, who isn't a multimillionaire because he's, coached a lot, I think that means something. I think that means something that you're going to get. And that's what Frank Broyles said. I want a coach's 10 best years. And generally in coaching, to me, that means somewhere between 40 and probably 55, 58. It's different for everybody's different. Some people look great at 58. Look at the Wilford Brimley, Tom Cruise comparisons, right? So it's different for everybody, obviously. But I like the idea of a guy who, what's crazy too, like the odds are whoever is hired for this job is probably going to be younger than me. And there has never been an Arkansas coach, whatever age I've been, who's been younger than me. But this could be the first one. And I remember the first assistant coach. Who was the first? There was an assistant coach. I think it was the dude who went to South Carolina, but I just remember thinking he's the first guy that's younger than me who's an assistant coach at Arkansas. And now odds are that the next guy will be younger than me, which is interesting. Trizzy Trey, and I'm Trizzy Trey, says West Hog 21. Do you think the level of donor support depends on the coach that is hired it's got to be a chicken or the egg. It seems Lashley is the most financial backing. Yes, there's definitely a push from people in Northwest Arkansas that want to see Lashley. But would a guy like Sumrall or Mullen get close to equal funding? If you could get Sumrall and you don't get him, I think I would be disappointed in Arkansas for that. I think that he checks pretty much every box. Now, he's going to be coveted. There's a chance that Auburn opens, that Florida opens, that Kentucky, which is his alma mater, opens. So I have heard people say that he would be interested in Arkansas, but I'm sure he would also be interested in Auburn or Florida, or Kentucky. So we'll see how that goes. But man, if people can't get behind Sumrall as a real candidate, I don't know that Arkansas football is doomed if they can't get behind that guy. Like, it would. The Razorback says, Trey, who wins the fight? Board of trustee members and boosters who want their guy, or the search firm that says this is the best 2 or 3 guys to lead your program to success? So that's not really what a search firm does. A search firm is there to vet coaches, vet potential candidates, make sure there's no background issues or anything like that. And they're also to help you keep confidentiality. I think the term search firm is misleading because it's up to Hunter Yurachek to hire the coach, but the search firm is there to assist and, to get all that other stuff kind of right. So it's Hunter Yurachek's call who they hire. The search firm is there to assist in the vetting process and stuff, not to go out and find you a coach. SWA, if that was the case, then whoever is the AD should not be hired, because that's your number one job, is to hire coaches. SWA Hog 281 says, itty bitty titty. Okay, here we go with that one. Does this feel as much like a program defining hire to you as it does to me? Yes. Like, this truly decides if they will be relevant in the new college football era. Yes, this is the biggest hire in college football for Arkansas ever. It's the biggest hire ever for the college football program. So to me, it's like, are you serious? Or are we going to be fed the same bunch of crap that we've been fed for years, and Arkansas is going to be a do more with less program, which doesn't work anymore? You have to have financial backing. I don't know where it all comes from. I don't know if you get Jerry Jones back on board to do, a lot of it, or you can get Walmart. You have to have Walmart, man. You have to have Walmart involved in this. And whatever it takes to get them involved. And to me, like, Hunter needs to figure this out one way or the other. It is a big task, and it's not just up to him, but it's up to him to convince. It's up to him to sell this idea. It's up to him to come up with a plan. It's up to him to get them to approve the plan. And, Arkansas fans have to support in any way they can if you want to get this thing done. But the idea of just Arkansas missed an opportunity to, when NIL came around, and I've said this many times, when NIL came around in the transfer portal, this was Arkansas's opportunity to close the gap from the talent perspective where they have struggled in the past. Access to elite talent. Like, people can say Arkansas is this or that, or, people in Arkansas, there's this stigma attached with Arkansas. Like, we're talking about the Southeast, folks. If you consider Arkansas the Southeast, you're going to tell me there's not stigmas attached with the Southeast, but Arkansas is the only one that doesn't wear, shoes or has missing teeth and stuff. Like, give me a break. The only problem with the University of Arkansas is direct access to elite talent. Auburn, look at all the 150,000 town plus all around Auburn within the pretty close proximity, pretty close radius. Arkansas doesn't have that. There's not a lot of those towns around Arkansas, Fayetteville, and that is. And Arkansas doesn't produce at a high per capita. Mississippi produces a ton of talent. It's the same size state, basically. Mississippi produces way more talent. They have 2 teams in that state. They get poached a lot for the talent. But this, to me, was Arkansas's opportunity to capitalize on NL. You have companies, like J.B. Hunt and Tyson and George's Chicken and, Walmart, of course, so on and so forth. I mean, we're literally talking about and it's not just the companies, but people involved with those companies. Walmart's the world's largest retailer. Tyson Chicken is the world's largest meat producer. That's pretty substantial stuff. And they didn't get it done. They didn't capitalize on the opportunity in front of them in 2021 when they had to be aggressive and proactive, and now here we are. And, I don't know that Sam Pittman was ever going to get it done at Arkansas. It seemed like too often they just found ways to lose games by mistakes and errors and stuff. We can talk about talent and stuff. There's a lot of errors that led to a lot of Arkansas losses that would have been defining moments for Sam Pittman, and instead are defining moments the other way. So I don't know that Sam was ever really going to get it done to a next level. But he also didn't have all the resources he needed either. I mean, let's not make a mistake about that. These things have to change. You have to pay money to get a quality coach. You have to pay money in NIL. And we'll see, again, NIL has become a thing where it's not just about how much money you can raise. It's how much money you can get approved through the clearinghouse. That's what NIL is. And revenue sharing, the idea is that's supposed to bring the model and bring everything closer, and we'll see. I think you're probably going to run into a lot of cheating now. If teams don't feel like they can get some kind of edge through their NIL stuff, but we'll see how it shakes down. We'll see how hard they are. The harder they are, the harder the clearinghouse and Deloitte accounting is on teams trying to push NIL deals through, the better that is for Arkansas at this point, because they have the revenue sharing stuff, and everybody has that. Not everybody. There are teams out there that don't have 20.5. That is the limit. But there are teams out there that don't have it. Arkansas does. And the question becomes, like, what does NIL look like now? Is NIL an afterthought, like just an extra little boost thing, that is generally supposed to be for NIL and not pay for play? Or is it pay for play still? That's the question. The Razorback says, how important is Texas recruiting to this hire? Recruiting is important. Pittman got caught in a loop. He could not afford to develop through the high school ranks. It's one reason I think we saw so many high school players leave the state, because Arkansas couldn't spend time to invest money in bringing in high school players from inside the state. Pittman had to go get guys that are ready to play, because if he didn't have guys that are ready to play right away, then he would be fired. It happened anyway, but he had to go out and get mature, ready-to-go players, and you get caught in a loop because you don't have anybody in high school now, or players from high school transfer out. So the loop. Eldo Bassmaster says, T-Blitz, you got any information on who BP is lined up to add to the staff? There's been discussion of Alonzo Highsmith Jr. There's been discussion of Alfred Davis. That's really all I've heard. Okay. Trey, you made a cryptic post about private equity coming to all of college football when the news broke that the Big Ten is flirting with a couple of firms. Can you expand on that? I don't know as much about it. I think that's where I think we're going to see more private equity in college football moving forward down the road. All right. We've got some more questions on HawgSports, and I will get to those later via typing, but my voice is starting to tighten up a little bit. We've gone an hour and almost 15 minutes now, but I want to thank everybody for hopping on and watching the show. Give us a like or a thumbs up if you haven't done so already. Give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't done that. Oh, you know what? I didn't tell you about our friends over at Blakeman's, and I need to do that because Blakeman's Fine Jewelry is proud to be the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks and are thrilled to support the team, and that includes providing beautifully crafted pieces for the U of A homecoming court. Built on tradition since 1987, Blakeman's has been Northwest Arkansas's trusted destination for exceptional jewelry and personalized service. Visit them at their brand new location, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway, Rogers, Arkansas, 72758. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, where Arkansas gets engaged. You guys should check out this store. Even if you're not planning on buying anything, which I think you'd be surprised when you see some of the pieces in there, There's really nothing like this store in Northwest Arkansas. It's really exceptional. Check out our friends over at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry. And again, HawgSports is just $1 for 2 months. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to sign up and get the most entertaining, accurate information. You really got to weed through some stuff on social media. There's stuff that I don't ever post on social media. I just post it on our message board. A lot of stuff. Most of our good stuff we only post on the message board. And, of course, all of our other breakdowns and great stuff we have at HawgSports. Check us out. And now is the time to do it. 2 months for $1, HawgSports.com. All right, everybody. Thanks, Kevin Bohannon. Thanks, Connor Goodson. Thanks to all of you guys for your support as well. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we will catch you. No walk and talk on Saturday, so we'll catch you on Monday.